Hey, Kathy, this is responding to my interpretation of that history lecture, and then I'll upload a separate translit one. I was going to just comment, interrupt into the comments on GoReact, but then I just took, notes on stuff, and I'll give you this, like you said you wanted to see. Took a bunch of notes, and it's kind of interspersed throughout the video, so whatever. Okay, so I'll just go through some of the stuff that by category, things that I noticed right here. Register. I felt that it was formal, which fit the maybe consultative, maybe which fit the speaker who seemed like it was like a kind of a classroom lecture. Up for, so I noticed two-handed signs. I felt mostly clear sign production. I put that down. Clear sign production, two-handed signs, not a lot of dropping of different, not a lot of dropping of the non-dominant hand, which is something that I do, especially if it's casually. Yeah, and then I felt like the pacing was solid too. It kind of reflected, his kind of even metered pace. Maybe that's more affect that I'm talking about here instead of register. But okay, let's see. Processing time at the beginning, which I think is maybe typical at the beginning of a thought, especially at the beginning of the whole lecture. I would start back with some more processing time and then kind of get on top of him. And I think that this, particularly because this information was super dense, he would just have these little one-off phrases that would require just a big unpacking of what he meant. I think that sometimes stuff I know that there were omissions for sure, and so I think that kind of would catch me up a lot quicker. I'd be like, I only caught a word or two of that. So under miscue management, I'm kind of jumping under miscue management, but there was just omission of details. Managed that the way that I managed those was, I don't we can't interrupt the video. Be like, what was that? What did you just say? What do you? Huh? Okay. Depth of processing. Strong mostly throughout, but some of the ideas were hard to understand that he would say really quickly. Sometimes it would be like when I would sign it would almost be there, but not quite. One example that I wrote down specifically was wealthier people profit more off the society than others, and I signed close that the wealthy people can afford to pay more taxes, so not semantically equivalent. So not quite there on some of that, and that happened a couple times throughout, where I noticed the other thing that he said was separate, another big divide. I think the English was big divide, and I said another separation, which I'm unsure if that's equivalent. He was talking about the taxes. And creating how it created that separation between classes. I think the whole concept worked eventually, but there was a little bit of a intrusion there from the source, peeing in the sea. If you are semantic equivalent, okay, semantic. Some are born to rule, some are born to follow, and I signed. Some are inferior, some are inferior, some are superior. That's not working for me. Some are born to rule, some are born to follow. People born, others. I guess maybe whatever with that. I'll bring that to you. Lexical production. I was really happy actually watching this lexical production wise, because it's something, obviously I did my paw on accents, that accent thing before, and I've mentioned to you about, and then we've talked about, my hand shape, be it for pain, soreness, or whatever, but everything, I was noticing, it seems to be a marked improvement even from just watching the video. the last video we did, which was the two things that we do when we screened for this mentorship. I felt like I noticed a difference in clarity and consistency of production. One thing I noticed is I seem to drop the non-dominant hand. I won't sign things as evenly because I think I did adults at this point, and then I did some other stuff. I just noticed that the non-dominant doesn't always come as high as the dominant, um, when appropriate, when it should be. You know. Yeah, I don't think I signed half unevenly, but that was the first thought that I had. Sometimes I think it's maybe a little bit of laziness with this, or because it usually gets slower. So anyway, I just noticed that on lexical production. And I'll get to finger spelling in a second. Let's see here. Expansions, rough and ready. That was not. I think I said, hey, everyday guy, rough and ready. And then he had the that's what he was also talking about, the people coming into the one that he brought into the White House who were kind of more like the commoners. I think it's okay, but there was also something missed in there. This source was tough because he would just have these like little like one word things where he'd be like Andrew Jackson. You just say that, and then you're supposed to know what the heck that means. You just go Andrew Jackson. You go Andrew Jackson, non sequitur. Well, it felt like obviously pertinent to the topic, but it felt like a non sequitur. Expansions. We increase taxes as. Oh yes, this is right. When he was talking about increased taxes as income increases, and I thought one expansion that worked well. Was when the poor people pay, middle class pay, rich pay, can't afford. I didn't like this one though. Can you see right here with the I don't think that kind of works there. It doesn't fit, but I thought that was a solid expansion. Then the regressive income tax on consumption. I don't think the clarity was there that it was the reason that it was that it was unfair was because these people couldn't afford it, and rich people could afford to do that. The concept wasn't fully there. Like if I was watching that and I were to put it in English, I wouldn't get that. Oh, this is regressive income tax because I was doing this. What is this? Oh, non-manual markers. Okay, grammar, affect, mouthing. Mouthing, sometimes not excessive to the point I think it didn't look like I was transliterating at all, but I would say that there was, with an interpretation, ideally you want to be not mouthing unless it's grammatical, and there was, it was still in there. It was still kind of following, the gloss at different points. And then also, just a couple things I noticed too. I went for block, or I was doing this for equal, which I don't know what do I mean? Incredibly equal, very. So that it's just part of being a language learner too. Is sometimes we do weird stuff that's not what we intended. Space and placement. One thing that I noticed is talking specifically about the groups, and these different groups, the poor, the rich, the whatever. There wasn't consistency. Sometimes I didn't clarify who was in a pronoun, and it would just be, or would just be, things are unequal, and who's this group that is unequal? Who's this group that is? There sometimes it was there, but there was one towards the beginning. Shoot, I didn't put that, but I know that I was just saying, oh, it's unequal, and it wasn't clear who these things were, so missing the setup of the pronoun, I guess. And then something else to do in space. Where did it go? People going the way, moving west. Okay. Space and placement was also the moving when we move west. Oh, and I did this right. First, I think west was important, and that wasn't there. West to see what's going on right here, And then I guess but it was seizing right. So west or using that in space west. I think, and that worked too because east west. Oh, that was the sentence. That was the next one. Directional verbs filled in the nation. Yeah, okay. Space directional. Um, Pronominal referencing. I index. Andrew Jackson. Pronoun left. Oh yeah, a couple times I noticed that I set up my first. When someone wasn't necessarily in either space, I noticed sometimes I would do the first on my non-dominant side, which seems a little strange to me because I feel like just fluent, just language wise, you should default to your dominant space to set up your first pronoun, and this should be if you're putting a second or a second referent here. Um, does that feel right to you? I think because I noticed I went, which was weird because there wasn't anyone here, so it seemed a little bit off. Beginning of the 21st century, tense markers. The beginning of the 21st century, 21st century. I always overthink these ones. 21st century, beginning. Beginning? Should it begin? Should it 21st century start? Yeah. Oh, I like that. That's better. Okay. No, that seems stronger. There's another tense marker too. It took 50 years to get white men the right to vote, and I don't think that I had some. I think I did. I did 50 years, but then this. Well, I don't know what this moment was here, which I think was the end of the Civil War. We'll have to, but that was just like a. I think that's just a fill in the gaps thing. But you yourself, because I don't remember him saying that. I don't think it was there. So I think it was what north south, or was it? Yeah, this definitely was not in the source because I think that it took 50 years for every white man to get the right to vote. He means like from the inception of the country, meaning the country was founded and then country was founded and then 50 years for white man. That was not in the source. It would have so it would have required expansion anyway. But I put the number under tense markers because it was what's the first thing, and then we have this period of 50 years until white men can vote, and then from that point, once they get the right, then you had all the other groups subsequent to that. So. Construction action, paying. Oh, that was just an example of something. Okay. Constructed dialogue. I don't feel like I didn't catch anything. This is kind of, it was kind of talked about in the abstract as well too. So. Okay. Classifiers, people going in the White House. I noticed I did this for people going into the White House, which I guess you could be going in, but this doesn't. Is this always the hand of illicit activity? So I felt like people. It was like people. Actually, I don't know if that's. I have to go back to the story, but I guess that he was saying that these people that Andrew Jackson brought in were the. Because this to me doesn't seem pejorative. This does. This seems negative. This is like low class people, which maybe that's what the professor meant. That they were low class. I don't. Interesting. Or is that just my perception of it? Low class, everyday people, or maybe rich. Maybe I guess it was man at that time, right? And let's see what else I've got here. Finger spelling. Okay, so finger spelling. Here we talked about it today in well, we talked about a little bit, but we talked about today in mentoring and the finger spelling. So there are a couple instances, like you were saying, aristocracy was not quite there, and no, it wasn't all the way. It was lexicalized, but it was the first time it was being spelled. And aristocracy is not a word that you would expect your consumer to necessarily to just pick up on the first time. So aristocracy, and I think it after seeing it and just thinking how it feels when I sign it. So oftentimes it's the second half of the word. Um, it's the second half of the word, meaning that maybe I'm thinking that there's some sort of, not, I guess not consciously, but that there's like a once you've got most of the word most of the way there, I'm thinking like you've got the rest of this. And so I think that remembering that the back half of the word is just as important as the front half, and that aristocracy is not necessarily the type of word that the gap is just going to be filled in for naturally. Maybe that's it. I'm gonna look at it. Look at another video or two as well, and in the translit here in a second. But I'm doing this interpretation one first, and then. Yeah, so that, but like I told you before, I've definitely gotten the feedback about fast finger spelling before. But let's see if there's a pattern when I look at the other video too, because some of the finger spelling was slow and clear, and it was decently. None of it was too unclear here, but I did notice that with that word, like with aristocracy or Andrew Jackson, I think the Jackson was it. I think Andrew and then Jackson, yeah, which is not the name. Not the name's not being produced. Transitions. I feel like transitions are pretty strong. Be it breaking of eye gaze or this, whatever English you put on this next down, whatever, understand. Or even like in the past, but I think visually that facial expression wise, prosody, even just like prosodic markers, just like or whatever, just transitioning, I feel like pretty strong and usually there. I would say that some of the issues that I saw were more with maybe fully attending to the message. Or deciding things are semantically equivalent, got behind sometimes, either due to expansions or because they're just some of the concepts was he would say this little thing and it would be this whole big fat concept, or not understanding what he meant. To be quite frank, on a couple of things, I was like Rough Riders, some of that. But I think that transitions and prosody, I felt pretty strong watching it. Rhythm. What I put, yeah, rhythm, facial expression, eye gaze too. Eye gaze, referencing the pronouns. Thought that looked natural. It looked it was prosodic maybe, and I think that composure solid. I'm just going on this whole sheet. Composure was good. Didn't look too freaked, and I think that the affect kind of matched what he was doing. Calm, was a little it was calm, like it was text affect low. Yeah, I feel like that it fit thinking about it. There's one word that I want to go back and look at too. I just remembered it right now. Something that he says about the rich people. He said something with a U. Shoot. I'll have to look at. I'm gonna look back at it after I finish recording this video. Eyes referencing grooves, people. But okay, cool. All right, so that's what I noticed after a couple runs through the interpretation here. But I think that this theme might hold clear. Hold clear. Not. I was just gonna say the depth of processing. I'm not even fully attending to the message. Not even fully attending to the messages that I'm producing. So. At least it's consistent. All right.